take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Life in Red.
Episode 2, Life in Red. Austin Forsyth, what's up?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
What's going on? You're my baby brother, first and foremost.
Yes.
My biological brother, because we have so many adopted siblings right now.
Too many to count.
Also, I thought a cool reason to have you on is you, for lack of a better term, and I apologize if it's offensive, but you're gay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of cool because I'm a straight white male, and I think you know me that I've always been very supportive of your sexual identity and pride and all that.
He goes to more pride events than me. It's great.
And but because I'm not in the community or live your life, I really don't know what it's like, the things you go through, if it's any different. So what is it like being a gay man in 2018?
So being a gay man in 2018, I have to say we are in the prime time. I can go out in the streets with friends. I can yell yes all I want. I can talk about anything I want. I can talk about all my experiences with friends, and they're all supportive, and they all just love it when I just tell them my story. So I would have to say, with everything that's going on in this world, I would say I'm very lucky to at least be here in Canada and just being openly free, especially in Ottawa, because we grew up in Carleton Place, and obviously it was not the same experience. So here I can be open, be whoever, talk to anyone, and then in Carleton Place, it was totally a different experience. There was honestly no one to talk to about it. So I would say in 2018, I worked hard to get here and be who I am.
You mentioned Carleton Place, growing up in a small town. For those who don't know, Carleton Place is like 9,000 people. And when we were growing up, it was so much less than that. What did you face any discrimination or bullying or anything when you were growing up in Carleton Place? Because again, not being in that community, there isn't a community in Carleton Place, really.
I think it's growing now.
Yeah, but when we were growing up, we had one black family for the most part that I knew about as a kid. There was no diversity.
There really wasn't.
We didn't even have sushi. You know what I mean? There was nothing. So when you were growing up, and I guess when you first came out, did you feel there was discrimination or anything like that?
I gotta be totally honest. My coming out story it's not as dramatic as other coming out stories. I'm very thankful for it. I would say before I even knew how I was a gay man, I started to realize that I like different things when I was 10 years old, right? So who am I going to talk to at 10 years old? I couldn't talk to anyone because I didn't understand myself. I had no resources, and frankly, we're all 10 years old. We would know, right? So in elementary school, I had a girlfriend. It was
Kimberly,
great.
right?
No.
Oh.
No. Oh, no, that was we were 6. So. Okay. I had a girlfriend, and we're still good friends now. We hang out all the time and have dinner. She's doing really well.
Krista?
No.
Who?
It's Taylor.
Taylor who?
If you're listening, Taylor, hi.
Who's Taylor who?
Taylor.
Call her out.
I'm gonna call her. Okay, Taylor Bonnet. So I was in grade 8, right? Grade 8, and it was great. She's lovely, and I already said she's doing well. Anyway, so I didn't understand what I was feeling in this oh my god, I have a girlfriend thing, because I always knew. I was like, where are the boys at? What's going on? After we broke up, I came out to her, and this is what she said to me. You're gay the whole time. And then, so she is convinced that she turned me gay. And obviously that wasn't the case.
Are you like, is that offensive? You said you're still friends, but
Oh my gosh, I think it's funny. It's a funny joke.
okay.
I mean, I can take any joke now, but the bullying side, I only faced certain people in elementary school. And forgive me for saying this, but they would say he's an omega fag. And the word fag was a very powerful term to me because I was like, that's the first insult I've ever heard, right? So here I am questioning what does that even mean, and why is that degrading to me? I don't understand. And here I am transitioning into high school. I'm wearing nail polish. I'm wearing pink shoelaces with Converse. I'm wearing scarves. I'm wearing cardigans. I had no problems. Really, people stared at me and people obviously knew, and all of my friends in high school knew, and then my coming out was basically, yeah, and now I'm very thankful for that. Me being like the only out gay kid at 14 years old in my grade, at least, I know there are plenty of gay teenagers in Carleton Place at the time, but it's not like we had a Facebook group and like we're all discreet people trying to like, you know, talk about it, because no one wanted to talk about it. So I never got bullied in high school, and I thought that I why should I, right? So I'm very thankful for that.
What about now? What about
girl,
like,
I got stories. Okay,
like on, you know, with social media and being out, and
still nothing.
So
the best part, this is where when me in elementary school, when I get called a faggot, transition to high school where I didn't really get bothered. No one bothered me. No one really cared. Even everyone knew, but no one really cared. I was obviously the different kid, and, you know, being on students council, all this stuff, no one cared. Everyone knew me. Everyone knew who I was before, like, I knew who I was. Now, when going into adulthood, you know, going to my first gay bar, you know, having my first boyfriend, it was basically, I still had no problems. But when in my first relationship, when I heard about the stabbing downtown, I had people reach out to me being like, are you okay? And then I was like, how does this happen in Ottawa? Like, people still get stabbed just for being gay. And the best part, I was working at Starbucks, and I got called a cocksucker, and I took no offense to it. I was like, yeah, and like, how does an 11-year-old get so offended by hearing the word faggot, then someone calling me a cocksucker and go, yeah, and what? What about it? You're right. Like,
not yours.
It's not offensive. Like, not yours. Like, I have size requirements, but so it's amazing. But that's my experience. Other people go through different things. Like, our family, obviously very supportive. Obviously, everyone had to take time to kind of adjust to it, because I don't think our parents knew how to raise a gay son, and I don't even know how to be a gay son, really, because I was just being me. You're not raising a straight son, you're raising a son. But you have so many expectations, and all these families have expectations for their children, and it's always heteronormative, and that's what I've noticed. So that's why when it doesn't matter if you're coming out as lesbian, gay, bisexual even, because there's still issues with bisexuality in the gay community, because people still say it doesn't exist, and it's disgusting. And transgendered people, transgender women of color, transgender men of color, there's so much to it that I didn't even realize. There's LGBT, and the acronym just goes long, and everyone has a different experience, and I'm very thankful for mine. And I can't put myself in other people's shoes, because I was so grateful that I didn't really have an issue. The struggles were with myself the entire time.
So two things to that point. So quickly, I know you kind of said when you came out to your first girlfriend, but like, so you obviously knew you were gay before that. When was the light bulb moment, I guess, when did you know? Was it like you always knew? Was it all of a sudden like, no, like I like men, I'm not sexually attracted to women? Was it just kind of happened and snuck up on you, and you're like, oh, like what was that? What was that like? How did you find out? How did you know?
I knew that I didn't like girls, but I didn't know what I liked. I thought, you know, I was bisexual. Even me being a little more feminine than, for example, I did drama, you did hockey. Like, here I am dancing and singing on a stage, and you're like a really good goalie. That's a plug-in, guys. Okay. Anyway,
I'll never forget the moment I walked in.
Oh god.
And saw you doing like this provocative dance to Beyonce's "Naughty Girl."
I still do
I was like,
no. It's when I was doing the High School Musical, the dance along or something, and you walked in on that, and I got so mad I threw the remote at you. No, it was the vacuum clean. It was the vacuum head.
Right.
And Mom yelled at me for like.
So you didn't know what you liked. You just knew that.
I just knew that
you weren't necessarily normal.
I just knew I loved Beyonce. Here I'm like, why do I like these things? And dancing and singing, people always assume that's feminine. And actually, for a couple of months of my life, I thought I was supposed to be a girl. And I remember Amanda, right? You remember Amanda? We grew up with her. Yeah. Plug in. Hi, I missed you. I hope you're doing well. I remember her. I was like screaming, and then she was like, "You scream like a girl." And then I said, "I wish I was," and I thought I was supposed to be a girl, because everyone always associated being a gay man as a woman, or feminine. Sorry. And so this was around when I was like maybe 13, and so knowing that being gay was feminine, I thought I was supposed to be a girl. So the light bulb was when I kissed my first boy at 14, and that's when it just dawned on me. I was like, this is it. Now I am not transgendered. I do not identify as female. I do challenge masculinity and all that I can, but it took me literally 8 years from when I first found out that I was gay to realize that I am an independent gay man, and I'm happy for it. So that light bulb happened when I kissed my first boy at 14.
Oh, okay. Now, you mentioned being raised, parents don't necessarily know how to raise a gay son or a lesbian daughter or bisexual or trans. It's a learning process still for everybody, I think. What do you think the difference is in raising, if any difference at all, raising, a straight son like me versus a gay son like you? Is there any should there be any difference other than acceptance, or what are your thoughts on that? I
gotta be honest, there shouldn't be a difference, because you're not gonna. Why are you treating your gay son differently? I remember just looking, mom and dad, they always. I mean, what am I saying? Mom and dad always went to my drama shows and loved it, I hope. But raising a straight son and raising a gay son, there's probably a challenge to it. It's probably because of all the expectations that you have for your children. You get married, you have children, you have a house, they get grandkids. And when it's a gay son, because I feel bad for that generation, because again, gay was like frowned upon, or they're disease ridden, right? Mom being a nurse, she, I was convinced she thought I was gonna die of AIDS. And it was a challenge, because I was like, the only way I associated gay was that, you get AIDS and die, right? So here I am, and then even with a sex ed curriculum, I remember just learning all about these heteronormative things. So I only learned about vaginal intercourse. That's all I learned. And I was like, well, that doesn't apply to me. And I have a funny story for later.
You mean the 1998 sex curriculum that is now in
effect? And so there shouldn't be a difference. Just because there's so much heteronormativity in this society, is that there are different ways of treating your children. And since we're from a small town, white town, everyone played hockey. I was afraid that I was looked at differently, and they didn't know how to handle me. Because, for example, I loved wearing nail polish. I like dyeing my hair. I love wearing cardigans and scarves.
That's like, not gay, okay? Well, cardigans are comfy.
Yeah, well, not when you're friggin' wearing black nail polish and pink shoelaces. Like, it's like, I would honestly ask my parents, what did you ever see me differently? Because I was convinced all my teenage years that I was just different, you know? So it's like, now, obviously, I think it's totally different, but this was just how it was just growing up, going, I guess I'm so different from my bigger brother because, you know, he's playing hockey, and Tyler, you know, he was doing his thing, and here I was going, am I allowed to do this? Because I don't like hockey. I don't like this. I remember being 6 years old and singing Cher on the way to the babysitter's
You made
house.
us watch Hairspray.
I did.
And
I did.
as a kid, before even thinking, because yeah, I mean, you're right in a sense that as like a straight kid growing up, that it was like the masculine, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was, if I liked Mamma Mia when it came out.
How do you not like Mamma Mia?
Well, you know, I dig the songs, but like
everyone loves
but
ABBA,
even back
gay,
then,
straight, whatever.
Which was like not like 10, 15 years ago. I mean, my friends would have made fun of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being, it would have been when I was 14, trying out for the rep hockey team, and no one would sit beside me because they kept saying I was gay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, like, I'm seriously not. And it was honestly the most offensive thing to me.
It's literally
ever.
And I sometimes feel bad for just straight guys in general because they are pressured to be so masculine. You know, they have to put up a wall. They have to like sports, and there's just so many expectations for them, and they get it from friends, they get it from parents, the media. You know, there's not enough exposure that people are just so different. Like, you know, if there's a straight guy and he acts a little flamboyant, they're just gonna assume he's gay because of stereotypes.
Which actually happens to me often because my voice kind of has a little,
I wonder if
upper inflection, and you know, I'm pretty flamboyant and energetic, and I'm all the time, you know, and there have been straight and gay people who have thought I was gay for the longest time, and I just laugh, like it doesn't bother me now, but it's just funny that you show any ounce of not super macho man or whatever that people are just like, oh, he might be gay. He could be gay.
That's when I sing the Village People and just be like, macho man, and then you'd be like, okay, yeah, he's gay, guys. So it's fine.
So, you know, you were saying you're lucky you grew up in a supportive environment, and you didn't encounter any violence and bullying.
No.
Even
that, I don't know if people tease me behind my back, but they never said it to my face. So
I just made fun of you because you're my brother, not because of your identity.
That's fair.
But I'm sure you have friends now, or people you've dated, or people you've met that have stories of, you know, either being disowned by their families, of violence, of discrimination. So, you know, I think most of us, when they look at Canada as a whole, I mean, United States and Donald Trump and Republican, that's a whole other story. But like, let's focus in Canada. Most of us would think that, you know, Canada is super accepting and that gay people have all the rights and nobody cares. What would you say, based on your experience and conversations with people to that point? Is Canada as accepting and, you know, gives equal opportunity as much as someone like me might think?
Yeah, but remember, gay marriage is still, like, was legal recently, like, what, 2005? I could be wrong. No, that's definitely 2005. I would say legally we have the structure to make sure that no one can be prosecuted for being a homosexual like many other countries. We can't lose our jobs for being a homosexual.
You're right, 2005.
Yes. Tongue pop. Anyway, I would say in a legal framework, there's a structure, and we have policies to follow up on. Socially, homophobia is still there. Transphobia is still there. Bisexuality, you know, literally even gay people don't understand bisexuality, and it's disgusting.
But on a scale of 1 to 10, for the regular person who doesn't see it and live it every day, what would you give Canada? 10 being really, really bad and 1 being really great.
Oh, why is it the opposite? Okay.
Because I was talking. Okay, flip it then. 10 being really, really bad. No,
okay.
10 being great.
I would say, you know what? I would give it like a 9. Yeah, I think a 9.
So it's because really good.
I would say really good.
Excellent, almost. Not perfect.
It's not. Nothing's perfect. But I would give it a 9 for the legal framework, but the social aspect, I would deduct that one mark there. But I'm still very grateful to live here, and you know, I'm not going to get prosecuted for being who I am. I'm not going to get sentenced to death like there is in other countries if I ever got caught in bed with a man, right? But it takes years and years and years of growth in order to be a 10. And that's everywhere.
Yeah, we need, you know, people who grew up.
We need the bad people to die.
Well,
it's going to take a long time.
But, you know, you're probably not going to educate the 75-year-old man who's lived out in the country all his life, who is, you know, just he didn't grow up with it, and his parents were totally against it, and he might be religious, and it was really so. We're not going to change their minds now, but I think focusing on, you know, people our age, I think, is people who are going into leadership positions in all sorts of various ways, whether that's running for office or getting into management at private companies or leading their church or, you know, I think you're right. It will get better and it's going to take some time. But judging on your, like, have you heard a lot of stories? I mean, Ottawa is a pretty progressive city. We're not the deep South Louisiana. You know, but like
Louisiana.
But do you hear a lot of stories of like either family disownment, homelessness, abuse?
Okay,
like a lot, or
I haven't met. I've met people who've been kicked out of their homes. Actually, I just recently, and I can't name names, but I learned in a certain town that we all know of, that we talked about earlier. There was a young transgender woman. She came out as transgender to her parents and got kicked out. She was homeless. But she got taken in by a family friend, and they needed help because they wanted her to, you know, go into the city, but she had no resources. And it was such a tragic story for me to just even be exposed to, because it's our hometown. This is where I grew up, and we always talk about experiences with the gay men, but we don't understand the experiences of transgender people, and especially transgender women of color. There's no resources for them in that town, and it's sad, and I wish there was. So now I know that she is now in Ottawa, and I hope she's thriving. I haven't heard anything from her, but that story is because it was also a family that I knew, or I went to high school with.
Who took them in or kicked them out?
That kicked her out, and so she had no one. So I got reached out to because I'm in Ottawa, and I identify as a gay man, and I educate myself with everything that I possibly can, but I can't speak for the transgender community. And so I had to find all these resources for her, just to talk to, you know, I can't remember the organization now, but talk to this organization here. I have a friend who can literally help you meet all the people that you need in this community to help you succeed. So that was one story that really stuck with me because it was so close to home. I know also, well, we don't talk anymore, but it was also a friend of mine that I knew as a teenager. He was questioning his sexuality, and just even questioning people just jump to conclusions, right? So he got kicked out by his mother and had to live with his aunt, I believe. And just I constantly had to hear what his mother was saying to him, and like, because this is what he was telling me in all these conversations that I had, and I'm like, I'm so thankful that I never got kicked out or got sworn at or just feel this discrimination from people who are supposed to be there supporting you. I also then attended Peppermint. It's on my Instagram at the Austin F. So
With Peppermint.
With Peppermint. So Peppermint is a drag queen that was featured on RuPaul's Drag Race, season 9, first transgender woman on the show. Now, that was during the show. Like there are contestants on the show that are transgender, but they came out after the show. But she came to Ottawa and she put on a fantastic show. She like grabbed my nose. She called me cute. It was amazing. I cried. But after the show she did a talk about the experiences of trans women of color. So here I am. I'm a white gay man, and every time you associate a gay man, they always jump to white because the white gay man is literally the center of pride, and it's disgusting. Every time you associate gay pride, everyone jumps to the conclusion of white gay men. History of gay rights, they always focus on white gay men, and that disturbs me in a way. So having her tell her story of, there are transgender women of color that are being murdered, and there's no discussion about it. We can't fix it because people still look at transgender as, a mental disorder. It's not anymore. It never was, but I think
it's not identified as one.
It's not identified. I think it was either recent or years ago, and please correct me if I'm wrong. And just having her tell her story and like her life, it just put me in this exposure of putting myself in someone else's shoes. I still cannot, act as a representation for them, or even non-binary people or androgynous. There's so many people with different stories. It's like we can't, in my opinion, we can't group them all as one because everyone has their own unique stories. So it's like LGBT is a great start, but it's like I think for the future, like we need to really stop generalizing the community because it's so diverse now. Like it was great back then to have that because it was a good starting point, but now there's so many different types of people, and there are so many different stories and different lives. It's like we need to understand all of them and move forward.
So, yeah, because I'm not well versed in other than the LGBT. So you mentioned non-binary, androgynous.
Yes.
I know there's cisgender, gender fluid. As a straight person, as like a person who's not in touch, I should say, with all that community, like describe. So what is non-binary? What is androgynous? What does that mean? In simple terms, to me, who doesn't understand it.
So, like I said, I cannot. Probably shouldn't tell a story.
You don't need to tell their stories, but explain what their identity is, I guess.
So there is cisgendered, and then there's transgendered, and there's non-binary.
So what's cisgendered?
Cisgendered is you're born as a male and identified as a man. So your identity matches your body part. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay, that's probably the best way I can explain it. Transgender.
So wait, am I cisgendered?
Are you cisgendered because you identify as a man and you have a penis?
So cisgendered is hetero. So wait, cisgender doesn't necessarily mean that they're gay or straight. No. It's just that they identify as their sex.
It's the distinction of sex and gender.
Okay.
Yes.
I had no clue about that. Okay.
So it's cisgendered. You identify with what's in between your legs, and that's pretty much it. I'm a cisgendered gay man. I'm assuming you're a cisgendered straight man.
Yes.
Okay. There's transgender.
Yes.
So here we are.
What's non-binary?
So non-binary is that you don't identify with either man or woman, and and their pronouns is there, they, there, and they choose how to be identified because they don't identify with cisgendered, and maybe they don't identify as transgender either. So there's so many things.
So what would you say? I hear this one a lot, and I know you said you're not speaking for them, so maybe it's a better question to ask someone who identifies that way. But you hear a lot of, right wing or conservative or just people who are not trying to understand, but they'll be like, oh, so if you identify as a fish, I have to call you a fish? Is that accurate? Is that what would you say to someone if they said that to you? Seriously.
Punch them right out. I'm a fish?
No, but
okay.
But you know what? If someone is, this is what they say. Their thought process is, they said they don't identify as a male or female. Mm-hmm. So they're like, well, if you identify as a fish, what am I supposed to do? Call you a fish? Is that a thing? That's an argument. People use that. So you don't identify as a male or a female. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make sense because you can either be male or female. How do you know what I'm saying? I don't.
I don't.
That's okay. Maybe one day I will speak to someone from that community and I can really get a sense of where they come from. One thing I want to touch on is, you say now, especially in you love being gay. You said that to me. You said,
I do. I'm having a great time.
And people often see stereotypes. Gay people love RuPaul's Drag Race, and I'm generalizing. I know that, but they love RuPaul, Queer Eye. They love theater and dance, and I mean, not all of them, obviously, but you would, as a generalization, that seems to be the way they go. Is that what do you think about? Is it just because it's so against masculinity, and is it kind of you're taking on that and you're so I'm going to go with the complete opposite? Mm-hmm. Is it just how do you describe why it would seem that a large population of gay men like those types of things? They're fun. Don't get me.
Oh my, yeah.
You made me watch Queer Eye because I was depressed, and I crushed it. I beat you to finishing the show.
He watched them all.
I thought it was great. It was a great show.
It's a great show. Actually,
so not hating on any of that stuff, but
I honestly think that it has something to do with feeling attachment and feeling like this person is speaking to me. So it becomes, I think over time becomes a generalization, right? So I would say older gay men, they love Judy Garland because and I love Judy Garland, don't get me wrong. It's because at the time they felt like she was speaking to them and they had someone they can look up to. And over the years, it's Cher. And we got Madonna, we have Diana Ross.
Well, the big one is Britney.
Oh, we're gonna get that later. Okay.
Because it always seems like gay men love Britney. It just seems that way to me.
It's always the same. And I would have to say a lot of gay men, they get very attached to strong women, and I love strong women. It's just because they feel like this person is speaking to me, and I honestly think it's also marketed towards gay men, and honestly, I'm for it. Lady Gaga, there's so many now, and with all these stereotypes, I love stereotypes because I'm I fall in that category, but it gets to a point we have to question going, is it rude? Assuming that, all gay men love musicals, because I know many gay men that hate musicals.
Yeah.
I know many gay men that don't like Britney Spears. Or I met a gay person that doesn't like Beyonce, and I was like, okay, what's your opinion?
Beyonce is overrated.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. It's with all these stereotypes, because I think it's just because it's marketed and it just became a generalization. And even though I'm living for it, I mean, I will. Yes is the new thing now, and that's a stereotype. All gay men say yes, and I have to say it's 100% accurate.
Well, sometimes I say yes because it's funny.
The gays did it first.
Well, yes, but it's funny. Like hearing Jonathan from Queer, I'd be like, "Yes, honey, yes."
Honestly, you
It's
need
so
that in
funny.
your life. The positivity.
It's just funny. So like sometimes like a girl coworker will be like, "Yeah, I'm going out on a date tonight." Like, "Yes, honey,
Yes, honey.
work it." But you're right. It is,
and it's also, I think also a lot of it too. It's just I find a lot of gay culture it's from drag queens too, because their mannerisms or womanisms, I would say, they just carried a torch for so long, and it's like the humor, the attitude. I think just a lot we just learned from our, I would say, the gay ancestors.
yeah, the ancestor.
I don't know.
So, a drag queen is not the same as a transgendered person.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of people assume drag queens are transgender, and drag has been happening for centuries.
Because you said Peppermint was the first
Yes.
transgendered person on RuPaul.
As I would love to get into drag. Don't get me wrong, but drag it means anything. Drag is just you're impersonating someone else. Like, for example, Kiss, the band Kiss, they're wearing makeup, heels and stuff. That's technically drag. But drag queens, it's a big,
Talking to the mic.
oh,
more.
geez, sorry. Am I talking away?
There you go.
Oh, okay. Drag queens, it's a big fuck you to masculinity, right? So that's a lot of gay men, and that was their platform, to express themselves and create a character out of it. So a lot of transgender women use drag as a beginning of their transition. Now, there is a lot of discrimination for trans women being in drag, because the stigma is that drag is only for gay men. Even drag kings, it's women impersonating men. I honestly never seen a drag king show, so I can't say anything about it, and I would love to go. But there's even homophobia in the gay community, and transphobia is the biggest one too, and biphobia. So I would say there's still a distinction between drag and transgender, but they interconnect too as well.
Okay.
If that helps.
I'm learning so much because I am so isolated. I understand the basics, but I think a lot of people who aren't familiar or don't have gay friends, like, where else are you going to find this? You can't. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could go on the internet and go down a big rabbit hole, I guess, but it's so much easier to talk to someone who just lives this every day, because on the surface, you're right. It is a stereotype and it's not right for. It would just honestly always seem that that gay men always love those high and mighty things.
Oh yeah, so it's a
it's the big theatrical performances,
and I live for it, but not everyone does.
No, you're right, and
does every straight guy like hockey? Does every straight guy love sports? Probably not. I know straight guys who like theater and art and all that stuff, and there's just so many expectations for people and what they should and shouldn't like.
Yeah,
and it's everywhere.
Agreed. One thing I want to ask you, because it's always super entertaining.
I'm so excited.
Dating in the gay world. As a straight person, it sucks. Women completely control it, right or wrong. It's just the way it's always been. And it's tougher with Tinder and all that. Like, it's basically like a Roman gladiator duel for the princess's hand all the time. Like, there's 100 guys for one girl, and who's gonna fight to the death to win? But when it's and I'm only speaking man. I'm not talking about any other of the dating with women or, what, because the common perception is like, you get a message, okay, let's go have sex and never talk again. What's the dating world like for a gay man?
Mom, turn this off. Please. So, I gotta tell you, this is, oh my God. Okay, so dating in the gay world, this is the biggest spoiler. We've all fucked each other. You go on a date and then you just talk, and then all of a sudden you find out that they hooked up with this person that you're friends with and their ex-boyfriend who added you on LinkedIn and likes your Instagram posts. And it's like, we all know each other, and we all or know someone who slept with each other. So yes, there are many social platforms like Grindr, Scruff, Guy Spy. I can't think of any other one. But the big one is Grindr. So I could just load up Grindr right now and be like, okay, Ryan, I'm gonna see you in the next probably 30 minutes and come right back. There are people that go on the app and they would want hookups or they want dates and chats. And as a young gay man, it's really hard to trust these people because I don't know where they've been. I'm not assuming every gay man is promiscuous, but there are a lot of promiscuous people, and it's scary. So I would say dating in the gay world, it's very are you in, you're out. Does it make sense? Sometimes they don't want to date. They just want to go. It's like, for example, I could just send a message, and I already said this, but I could just, after this podcast, I could go to someone's apartment right now and then go home and have spaghetti or something. It's how it is. There's a lot of no strings attached. There's a lot of just talk of, oh, I know your ex-boyfriend. Yeah, we slept together before. And you go, great, awesome, that's great. Or it's like, oh yeah, I talked to this person before. Or I would also say a lot of gay men are, at a young age, sometimes they're afraid of commitment. So a lot of them are in open relationships, which is totally acceptable.
I don't think that's different necessarily from the straight dating world.
I think that's, yeah.
I remember being in my early 20s and like, the classic, what are they called, the fuck boy, like you. I look back on the things I did. Was so stupid. Like there was a girl, and I look back, and I look back now, and I'm just like, why did you let her go? So stupid. And you met her. I'm not going to say her name on here, but I can tell you after the podcast. But I let her go because I didn't want commitment, even though, she was great and she could have been the one for all I know. And now she's in a happy relationship and that's great. But as a young male, all I wanted to do is I wanted to sleep around. And I think that's what every guy, no matter if you're whatever, like, I think it's something, I don't know, biological in our sex that we're just like,
oh, yeah.
I want to do as many people as I can.
Humans aren't designed to be monogamous. It's a social concept. But it's the same idea. Like, I would say for a lot of gay men, they just, I think it's just a guy thing in general. Maybe they just want to sleep around. And there's guys that want, commitment and all that stuff. I would say there are so many fuckboys on Grindr, and everyone knows who they are.
Yeah, they're just some I get it. There are trash men for sure.
There are so many, and it's even so. It's like even with like breakups and stuff, I find a lot of gay men just move on. Like
it's quick.
It's pretty quick. Obviously, you think back to it, and you go, like, "How did I feel in this?" And then you want to move forward, right? So it's like I've been broken up with 3 times, and I'm still like, okay. Like this is how you handle a breakup, everyone. You go on YouTube, you watch How Does the World End, and nothing matters anymore, right? So
I'm gonna put that on the list. I haven't heard of that before.
Oh, it's the best because you're terrified because the world is so big and you think that your issues are at the center of your life, and then you're like, oh wait,
so true.
The world is so huge. There's so many more opportunities.
It's like that Family Guy skit. It's like, high school is such a serious thing. These problems matter.
Yeah, right.
Then you look back, you're like, Oh my god, like it did nothing.
It's you learn from everything, right? So even so, like, of course, like in my past relationships, I'm like, should I have acted differently? And you just want to make it better for the next person you meet, you know?
Now, I noticed one thing that seems to be a commonality in dating with women is, you know, like I said, a lot of guys, especially in their early 20s, just they want to sleep around. They don't want commitment. They're going all over the place and ghosting and doing these things, and then
generalization. We got
it happens. It seriously happens a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, not obviously when you say, I see this on Twitter all the time. When a feminist or something goes like, all men are, and then they're like, in brackets, not all men. We know, blah blah blah. Anyways, it's common that, you know, the women have this perception of men, you know, when they get to their mid or late 20s, that they're not trustworthy and that they're all quote unquote trash. And, you know, I'm not saying they hate men, but they don't trust them necessarily the same because they probably were hurt in their early 20s. Does the same thing happen in gay relations?
Yes.
People are like, they're like, no, I know, I am a man. I know men.
Yes.
I know what I'm like. I don't trust them. Is that a thing?
Yes, literally. I think this is my opinion. I think a lot of young gay men in relationships struggle because they must have felt pain in their life. And I find a lot of gay men have anxiety about everything for the way that whatever have they been treated, you know, have they been cheated on, have they been like all this. They hold so much baggage and they carry that baggage into their next relationship and it affects it. And it's a continuous pattern. I find it when I meet people, they always have something, and I just find that a lot. I would say dating in your early 20s is to like go on dates and have a boyfriend, but it's like if you're really committed, stay committed. But it's like if you guys break up, it's sad, and you know, go out with friends and then you can move on because you're in your early 20s and you learn from it. But it's people hold so many grudges. I think it's just for everyone, and it just becomes a pattern.
Yeah, it's a human thing for sure.
And then it just affects the next relationship, and then affects the next relationship. Maybe you get married and have kids, and then are you gonna bring that baggage to your children? And do they continue it?
I think parents do. Like they raise their kid like they're the ones yelling at hockey games because their dad did the same, or their wife or their husband is abusive, like whatever it is. I think humans in general definitely carry baggage and bring it on to the next person. It took me a long time to let go of the attitude I had in my early 20s when you think you're a rational person, you think you know everything, you think you're immortal, you can never die, you do stupid things. And then it took my heart being severely broken to like take a literal step back of everything and just be like, okay, who am I? What am I doing?
Yeah. It's like because when we're in relationships, we want to literally change our lives for this person. And I find that in your early 20s, you sacrifice so much. And it's like sometimes you can just lose yourself easily unless you're like a really strong person and really are committed. And I'm like, that's amazing. Good
that doesn't happen in your early 20s, though. I really don't believe it.
I don't know. I think there are some people who are going strong and they've been...
Well, yeah. Again, always an exception to the rule. Always. But I know for myself and my friends and the people I talk to, like, our early 20s were just a mess.
Oh, totally a mess.
Everything. I hear it a lot and did some research, but like your brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25 or something.
Oh, something like that.
So,
and it's like, even so, I would say when you're 25, I think it's time to lay down the groundwork and being like, okay, this is what I want. I think everyone should have, this is what I want, and how am I going to get to this next point?
Yeah, exactly. You need to have the plan.
Yeah.
And you can't let a relationship you need someone to augment your plan, and you need to augment their plan. You can't, you can't go out without texting me, or I don't want you to see this person, like the controlling and stuff. And it still happens all the way into your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, but I mean, like, you gotta let go of all that.
I gotta give props to a lot of gay men in open relationships where they just don't care. They're just like, your partner can do whatever as long as they're communicating. If that's their agreement, I applaud them.
Could you do that? Like, that would be hard for me to know that the person I love is sleeping with other people. Like, do you think you could do that?
Yeah.
Really?
I really could.
You wouldn't get jealous. You wouldn't be hurt.
No. I only would get hurt if it was behind my back and they don't communicate because it puts me at risk, right? So
what if your boyfriend was, and I know you have the looks of the family, so it wouldn't happen like this, but if they were sleeping around, and they were like, yeah, I slept with another, like, every day they're like, oh, I slept with another, and you're like, no one wants to sleep with you, so your partner now has slept with 20 people and you've slept with 0. That still doesn't affect what you think.
Okay, yeah, then that would be like, hey, what the fuck? But what's wrong with me? What happened? This has always been my opinion. But when I am in a long-term relationship, I would rather not. I would want to keep the sex life alive. Like, if I'm married and it's been 10 years, I expect my partner to maybe slept with one other person maybe once a year minimum, just to kind of keep the engagement going, because just keep the sex life going.
You wouldn't be worried about the other person being better, or that person being like, wow.
When you're with that person, you probably slept with them over thousands of times. So you're like, oh my god.
So you really trust your partner and the relationship.
As it's protected, and you get tested after, because it's like, it's so risky, because it's
crazy.
It's
I
crazy.
couldn't do it.
Oh yeah.
I like, no matter how much I trusted the person or loved them,
I would rather have my partner tell me that I want like a one night thing. I'm gonna be safe. I will get tested after, and we move on. I'd be like, yeah, because we're sexual beings who struggle with monogamy, and it's like, I'd rather have you have a one night and kind of get it out, and then it's like not all the time, not like every day, then that's a different issue. It depends on what the agreement is, but typically if I'm in a long-term relationship, I'm like, if it's been 3 years and you're kind of like, hey, I'm thinking about this, I'd be like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Pull your mic up a little bit. You're getting quiet.
Oh my gosh,
again.
I'm terrible at this.
Just pull it down right here.
Oh.
Grab the top. Hey.
Is it good?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay.
Just want to switch topics here. So.
No, we're gonna talk about my sex life now. No, I'm kidding.
My sex life is pretty much non-existent. So a big reason why I've always wanted to do the podcast, but I really got motivated based on an interaction I had with someone on Twitter, and it was a very brief exchange, and I don't get into internet fights, but the idea bugged me, and the reason I don't get on internet fights is because there's not a dialogue, there's not a face-to-face conversation.
You know how many text messages I got after that?
And none were from me, right? Because I was letting it go. So I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
What I said is, I tweeted out an article, and I said, racism, no matter if you're left or right, black, whatever, white, Asian, is wrong. And that person said, it's impossible to be racist to white people. Now, racism is defined as hating someone for one's color. How do you agree with that statement? Do you think it's impossible to be racist towards white people?
Okay, can you give examples of when white people have been discriminated against for being white?
So, here's an example. So, as a, I'm a white man, so I've never been discriminated personally, but I see things on Twitter that, hating on white people, get out of the way, just because, white people they are the hierarchy still to this day. They're the CEOs, they're the prime minister, they're the president now. I know we had Barack Obama. Like, white people are largely in power, and they make up the majority of power. So as a whole, the discrimination, I think, I don't want to say it's even discrimination. I say it's racism, because you're coming at someone because of the color of their skin, and it's something they can't control. So me, I'm in not any position of power. I don't have power. I'm not in charge of a company. I'm just a normal dude. I'm not responsible for any decisions any person has made ever. But people continuously say not things to me, but about white people that I see on Twitter. So, that to me is you are making opinions on someone else's skin color.
Okay.
So how is it impossible, in your opinion, if at all, if it's your opinion, to be racist towards white people?
Okay, this is my opinion. The reverse racism is not a thing. You can be, I would say it's rude, still kind of being rude to white people, and it's like that's just general statement. It's unequal, but it's not racist because with the history of slavery.
Because white people were the oppressor.
Literally, it is a generalization, but I just don't know any examples of white people being discriminated against. I don't know any scenario.
Well, not in society.
So it's very quick for white people to then be, oh, well, you said this because I'm white and that's racist. And it's like, no, because there's so much white privilege in this world where I would even say if a white person gets discriminated against for being white, they can still go home and they'll get over it. Meanwhile, if there's discrimination towards black people, they can go home and I would assume that they have to face that every single day, maybe, or like every now and then. But it's just white people being you can't be racist towards white people. The concept doesn't make sense to me.
So,
you know what I mean?
Okay, so you're right. It for sure does not have the same effect.
No.
I mean,
it's obviously you're an asshole, but you're just an asshole.
If we were going in tiers, yes,
Because
racism against white people is probably the lowest of is the lowest of it's. And you're right. They would forget. It's like,
they can
in
just
the
go
moment,
home and still have their white privilege and not worry about a thing.
But
they don't have to get
you yes, that is all true. But if we're defining racism by hating you, so yes, society as a whole, it doesn't discriminate against white people. Society
it never has.
No, it
never will.
You're right. It doesn't.
But it'll never happen.
But so it's not systematic racism, but one-on-one, you can be racist to white people.
No.
Yes, if a person
I need an example.
If a black person walked up to you and you're like, I hate you. Why? Because you're white and white people have oppressed me. Okay, you're right, but don't hate me. I didn't do it. Is that not racism?
It's an asshole move, but it just doesn't have the same effect. So
just because it doesn't have the same effect, it's not racist.
So it's just reverse racism is not a thing, and I didn't read the article that you posted anyway. So
the article was just about that the journalist who got hired on the editorial board of the New York Times, who was tweeting out things. You could look up the tweets, the article. I'll look it up while I'm talking.
So even I think what you're doing is you are just putting on a generalization of what racism is and what racism has the effect on. And racism, it's always been in the direction from, I would say anyone could be a racist, but if we're saying here's white people, black people, there's Asian people, all these kind of people, and sometimes there's black people can be racist towards Asian people. It's this racism comes in many different forms and it does affect them, but having a generalized statement of saying if a black person goes up to a white person and say I hate you because you're white, first off, I don't think I've ever heard that scenario. I've never heard it. But it's like, how about an indigenous person going to a white person being like, I hate you for being white? There's so much power to that. You know what I mean? Because we have been living like I have to admit I have white privilege. I don't have a worry in the world because for the color of my skin, and that's just in the Western societies. But I don't have to worry about walking out the street and worry that I could get shot or arrested just because of the color of my skin. No, other people do. So it's just if someone goes up to me and says I hate you because you're white, I would want to know their story, because even so I can still go home and it doesn't affect me. But it's not racism towards white people.
Interesting. So some of the tweets, I just found the article. So her name was Sarah Jiang. So one was, "Oh man, it's kind of sick how much I get out of being cruel to old white men. White people marking up the internet with their opinions like dogs pissing on fire hydrants." And then hashtag cancel white people for some examples. Kind of.
So that to me is just calling out white privilege.
So
and there's a show you should watch. It's called Dear White People.
I know.
It's on Netflix.
I know.
That teaches you a lot about white privilege and in the perspective.
Yeah, I don't deny any of that. I don't. That's not what I dispute. What I'm not okay with, and I have trouble viewing as okay, is the fact that people, no matter. So basically, if you're anything but a white straight man, you are allowed to say whatever you want to white straight men without any repercussions of your actions. Like, you could say, I want to kill all white straight men, and you're not going to get fired from your job. You're not going to, people are going to be like, yeah, and what my problem is that it's a giant hypocrisy for me. Like, why is that okay? It's not okay to me, but a lot of people, just because they feel or have been oppressed, which I do not deny, and I will not deny, because it's true, and I don't see it because I'm sheltered as the white man. But I don't think it's okay for people to attack it, and it's justified. To me, that's hypocrisy. If you want to end discrimination, if you want to end racism, and you want equality, then you can't attack the system because of the color of the system. You're just going to make them mad. People, and especially people who aren't trying to understand and seek the truth. You're going to hurt your cause because you're not coming at it we're talking about it. So some people don't want to talk about it. They're just, they're just button heads. I know Martin's like that. He's not interested in Fuck, I said the name. I know he's not like that. He doesn't want to understand. He has his agenda, and that's why I'm not fighting with him, and that's fine. If I support people fighting for whatever they believe in, I'm okay with that. But don't come at me and then make yourself seem smarter because I believe something else. I don't think that's okay, and to me that's a hypocrisy of exactly what you're doing.
No, I get where you're coming from. We still have to look at the context. I honestly still don't understand the context of what that tweet is and why it was tweeted. I would say
I just said racism was bad.
Oh,
that's all I said.
Oh, I was talking about from the article.
Oh yeah, she.
Oh yeah, no, okay, yeah, hold on. Okay, racism is bad. Don't get me wrong. Don't be an asshole. Just don't be rude. I get where you're coming from with that, but at the same time, it's the language and that we really pay attention to, because if I overheard someone going like, "Oh my God, kill all Muslims because they started 9/11," that's totally racist because it's a generalization. Now I see the opposite view where you're coming from, where it's like if someone's calling out white people, but it's how come white people can always call them out, and why do they still think they have that privilege to do that? And if it's black people or Latino people, and they're calling out white privilege, I say, yeah, do it, because it doesn't affect me, because I'm not generalizing myself in this, because I know that I would never discriminate someone for the race. And, I've literally, I love hearing the term "cry those white tears" because it's like, yes, because we are now standing up to racism, right? It's if the roles were reversed and say maybe white people are on the bottom, like are being discriminated against, it's like, how would we, evolve that? But it's the language of racism that we need to pay attention to. So, in my opinion, if I hear the term "cry those white tears," I say yeah, because it's gone far enough that you can, dress like you can, like dress as, a native person and call it a costume, or put on blackface, and call it a costume. It's white people have gone so far enough where it's now to the point where there's a resistance, and now that we're being exposed to it, I say, cry those white tears.
I actually think that's funny. Like
I love that term.
To me, that doesn't bother me.
It's just, you know what I mean? It's just like when it doesn't bother me that someone says anything about white people, because I'm like, yeah, white people have been terrible for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
So like centuries.
Do you not think though, like this is instead of us
No, because the only people who are fighting back are the people who are racist. Like, I'm not calling you racist, but the people who are getting upset about, people fighting back are the people who think that they're above, black people. It's literally the white people who think, well, it's because you're black and whatever you say, it doesn't matter to me because I'm white. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm totally for freedom of expression and,
well, freedom of expression is so limited already. You can be an asshole, but if someone calls you out, you don't have to claim it's freedom of expression.
No.
Because my freedom of expression is telling you that you're an idiot.
Well, I think what people don't understand about that either is it's freedom of expression, or freedom of speech, but a freedom or a right is only a right until you infringe upon other people's rights, which is why racism is infringing on other people's rights. And that's why under the law it's not considered free speech. And I think people need to understand that point. My whole thing is just I don't like hypocrisy. I don't like you saying one thing and then not you specifically, but I don't like someone saying one thing and then doing the opposite of what they're saying in some way. And I have a huge issue with that, and I want freedom of ideas. And
segue into LGBT people, the amount of times I've heard gay men say, "I'm not into black people," and they don't think that's racist. It's racist. This is not a preference. It's they're people, and you just only want to sleep with white people. It's just when I see racism, even in the gay community, I go, there's just so much to it. It's disgusting.
So this is it, because there was Global News put out. They have a video series called "People of Color," and they explore issues. And their first episode was actually on that. It was dating. It was dating in the color world. So here's the scenario. Putting I only sleep with white people is it's inappropriate. But in your head, if you're just like, you don't say it, but you're just like, look, my preference is sleeping with white people. Like, you think that's racist? It's not preference?
Okay, sorry. If they...
Like, if you're like, I only feel, I guess, attracted to white people. So, like, you never say it. You're never like, again, you're never like,
I would say
putting down a person of color, but you just sleep with white people because that's kind of what you want, or you're comfortable. I mean, I guess you could think of it as
be uncomfortable.
Yeah, you could think of that as a deep-seated, like, unconscious racism.
The way I see it, it's like, if you have a preference, just don't tell anyone. That would just be my thing. Or you stop being an idiot and just look at people for people. I would say preferences, it's like, I like blonde hair, I like long hair. It's not, I don't sleep with blacks, I don't sleep with Asians, and no femmes, and all that stuff. It's disgusting. like
Yeah, I
it's
think
gross.
saying that you won't or you don't, I think
don't and won't, and then
yeah, that's inappropriate
the
to
amount
me.
of times I had to tell people, I'm like, that's racist, and they go, no, it's not. It's a preference. I'm like, no, it's racist.
It's
You're
all-
basing it on their race.
It's all in the language.
It's just yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to say, you want to talk about? Cuz kind of tackled some pretty good issues there, I think.
Yeah, hope y'all don't hate me.
No, like I said in the first episode, what I want to do here is just explore ideas that maybe I don't understand that are different from mine, and talk about it. It doesn't mean we have to still agree at the end of the day, but I think we talked about it, civilly, and okay, this is my idea, this is your idea, okay, and I think that's what humans are missing, and that's what you do not get on social media. Like when I go look at the comments or threads, I was looking at it doesn't even have to do with race or sex. I was looking at one at mental health yesterday, and the article was like, studies suggest exercising can help with mental health. And people in the comments, oh, well, I can't get up from bed, which I totally understand, by the way, but it's not the same for everybody, blah, blah, angry comment, and it's like that's not what, it's not always about you, it's not always about what's going, the article was stating a fact that scientists, suggest that exercising can help. I'm just tired of these comments and threads, that's why I don't fight on the internet. It's not worth anybody's time, nothing gets done. I try not to even get opinionated anymore on the internet. I just like to.
I've never been opinionated on the internet.
Oh, it's
ever.
a waste. It's a waste
I just
of
want
time.
to make people laugh. That's all I want. I don't want their fucking opinion. I don't care.
Yeah, it's. I just like to sometimes an interesting article that I think people should read, or
I love anything. I love actually going on CBC News or anything to do with any politician. I love reading the comments.
Oh my god!
Because you can see literally people attacking Trudeau, but those are bot accounts paid by the opposition of any party, taking them down.
Or when it has nothing to
influences
do
your
with
opinion.
the government, it's just
my
this
God.
random story. It's like a Trudeau and his carbon tax. You're like, dude, this is an article about a rescued puppy.
Yeah. It's literally just, oh my god. I'm not wasting my time with opinions because I honestly just don't care about people.
Yeah, I think
I live my life, and I get what you're saying. So
what's happening is we're all becoming on teams based on our political views, our ideologies, our sex, our sexual identity, on the color of our skin. And what I want, and I think in a utopian society, if we ever get there, is we stop looking at all that and just we're human. We're all different. We all think differently, and but don't discriminate. Judge everybody by the individual. If you're an asshole but you're gay and black, you're still an asshole. If you're an asshole but you're straight and white, you're still an asshole.
Oh, we're going into intersectionality here.
But you know what I mean? No matter,
yeah.
Judge the person on the character of who they are, not on anything else about them. You're an asshole. An asshole is an asshole is an asshole.
Very much care for yourself, and that's all you need.
And just
in
be good.
life.
Be good to people.
You don't need to always prove you're right to people, because we're all gonna die one
And
day.
yeah,
Doesn't
that's right.
matter.
And you know what? Does anyone really have the right answer?
No one has the right.
We're all just flying by the seat of our pants and just
Literally,
trying to figure it out as we go along.
People want to win. That's all they want. They just want to win an argument. They want to win everything.
Yeah, I'm on the winning team.
Ah.
Right is, right is right.
And I just stopped.
And it's
caring.
ridiculous to me. Do you have anything coming up? You're just working now. You're getting your school done. You're not.
Yeah.
Are you getting involved at all with any community events, activism? Is that something you're interested in?
I've always wanted to participate in activism, but being a young 20-year-old, I had never had time for myself. I worked 2 jobs for so damn long. Now that I'm pretty stable, I would love to get involved in whatever organization, just if I can. But I'm just focused on me for the year, and I just love educating myself with everything. So I love reading about other people. I do like reading other people's opinions. I like listening and understanding where they're coming from. But no, it's all about me for the next year. I'm really excited. I look forward to finishing up my degree. I look forward to see what life has in store for me as a young gay man.
Yeah.
And single.
Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate your
thank you so much for having me.
Perspective, your opinions.
We're chatty Cathy.
This is what I want. We did an hour and 15 minutes almost.
God,
so where can people follow you? Instagram, Twitter?
You can follow me at the Austin with 2 N's F. I don't post.
Why 2 N's?
Because the the other one was taken.
Oh! Regular Austin F took it.
2 N's. So you can follow me there. I like Twitter and Instagram. I only post shirtless selfies, so it's fine.
So men, women.
Everyone. I love everyone.
No, yeah, I think your looks can get you through. Austin Forsyth, thank you so much for coming on. We'll
so
talk.
Much. We're going to mom and dad's tonight.
I am. I got to do some laundry.
I do too.
Are you coming?
Sure.
Woo! All right, bye everybody. We'll talk soon.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. 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 The rabbit hole goes.